Thank you. I've been asked to say a few words about the option of no deal, although I would like to say straight up that I think that no deal is simply no option, that no serious government should be even contemplating unleashing the kind of catastrophe which no deal would mean for our country. And you don't have to take my word for it. Just last month, the Defence Minister, Tobias Ellwood, wrote in the Times that no deal is simply not an option. And he was looking in particular then at the way it would damage the UK's ability to tackle everything from terrorism to cybercrime. He concluded then that all efforts must be made to avoid it. Earlier this month, the Work and Pensions Secretary, Amber Rudd, told her cabinet colleagues that no deal would make the UK less safe. The Business Secretary has said that a no-deal exit from the EU should not be contemplated. And just last week, the Chancellor Philip Hammond promised business leaders that no deal would be taken off the table within days of the Prime Minister's record-breaking defeat in the meaningful vote held on the 15th of January. So let's be very clear that the Prime Minister holds in her hand the opportunity to avoid no deal, and if no deal happens, it's because it's been a political choice to go down that road, which I think would simply be unforgivable. The Treasury's own economic impact assessment concluded that no deal would deliver a 9.3% hit to the UK economy over 15 years. That's an average, so it means that in some areas like the West Midlands or the North East, then you could be looking at a hit of between 13% and 16%. Last month, the CBI joined with the Federation of Small Businesses and other employers' groups, and they warned that they were literally watching in horror as the government's internal squabbles bring us ever closer to a no deal. Farmers' groups warn that no deal would be catastrophic for Britain's farmers, and you only need to look at the tariffs that our farmers would be subject to understand why. In other words, effective EU tariffs, say, on beef of 65%, of lamb of 46%, chicken 27%. We would be looking at the absolute destruction of many, many farmers' livelihoods. Now, of course, as the concept of no deal becomes more toxic, the advocates of that option have begun to rebrand their plan. We now have words like a managed WTO Brexit. And I think we have to be really clear about this. There is nothing managed about a WTO Brexit. This is literally falling off a cliff. And to those ministers who talk glibly about saying we're going to have a transition to a managed WTO plan, can we just point out that if you don't have a plan, then you don't have a transition. No deal means no transition. No deal means a catastrophic impact for our country. Now, the exact details, of course, are still not quite clear. We don't know quite how many roads in Kent will become a lorry park. We don't know exactly how many businesses will collapse. We don't know exactly which planes will be grounded or which shelves will be empty, or indeed whether the streets of Northern Ireland will be safe. And that, I think, is unforgivable, to be playing games with peace in Northern Ireland. Now, you could perhaps say, well, you know, this is all over-the-top speculation. It's all going to be fine. That the likes of Jacob Rees-Mogg were simply being paranoid when they moved their investments overseas. But I take no comfort in that slight possibility. After 2.5 years of chaos, I think the public deserves some certainty. And with less than 2.5 months to go, those actively campaigning for the UK to jump off the Brexit cliff with our eyes closed must provide some clear answers to some basic questions. And in our report, we itemise around 50 of them. I don't have time to go through all of them now, but I think we need to ask them, do they expect there to be consequences for refusing to pay the £39 billion divorce bill? How will we protect the environment, food safety standards and workers' rights without the EU's rules and enforcers? How will they honour the Good Friday Agreement? Will EU citizens who've built their lives here in the UK still have rights? The list goes on, but what is certain is that a no-deal Brexit will tear us from every EU law, every instrument and agency overnight, and we will have nothing yet with which to replace them. We know tariffs will make imported food, medicines and goods more expensive and exporting less profitable and more complicated for British businesses. And I guess there's one thing that I really want to say about this, and watching the pantomime, which is the House of Commons at the moment, I want to say to those Brexiteers that this is not a parlour game. This is real people's real lives, Real lives are on the line here when we're talking about the impacts of no Brexit. The government has not put 3,500 troops on standby to hand out plastic union flags for everyone to wave at their No Deal Brexit street parties. It's put troops on standby to help deal with the potential collapse of law and order. It is simply incredible that with just 66 days until we risk crashing out of the EU with no deal, the Prime Minister and her shambles of a government are still prepared to entertain the social and economic catastrophe they know a no deal Brexit would be. There is no mandate for this no Brexit. That was not on the ballot paper. This no deal was not on the ballot paper. Parliament has already firmly rejected this so-called option. The government must urgently place national interest before party self-interest and take this catastrophe off the table now.